Hello. It might be the close season, but there's no sticking the feet up here. It's Friday, and this is Game On, your weekly rapid-fire podcast brought to you from the Daily Record. Welcome to all our regular viewers and listeners, to friends of the show, to our sworn enemies, and all the casual acquaintances in between. I'm Michael Gann, this is Gavin Berry, and as usual, we're getting stuck into all the sporting topics of the week, and up against the clock. It's been a bumper week, Gav, as usual. Transfer windows open, the fixtures are out. We've got the Club World Cup, who had Bayern Munich in Auckland City in a 10-goal thriller, albeit the one team got all 10 of them. They shared 10 goals, but we were sharing the load today, as always. How's things with yourself?
Good, thanks. Sun shining. Looking forward to finishing up for the weekend.
It is. I mentioned earlier that the transfer window is wide open. There's talks about comings and goings, but first of all, we'll start at Celtic with some people talk about players coming in, but also talk about perhaps interest in Nicolas Kuhn, a potential £15 million bid from Germany with his old club RB Leipzig was mentioned. Is it time to cash in on Nicolas Kuhn, and is that the right kind of money to do so?
Well, I think, to be honest, Michael, £15 million, if Celtic were to receive an offer like that, I think you would take it.
Yeah.
If you look at, I know he's
a guy who was a shoo-in for Player of the Year up until January.
Well, he was. Well, that's the key thing up until January. I mean, he's been there for 18 months, and he's had that purple patch of about 6 months.
Right.
It's a third of his time. He bought him for £3.5 million. He's been hot for a third of the time. Off the boil at the end of the season. Crucially, if somebody's willing to pay £15 million, if Celtic want to get more than £15 million, you have to be sure that he's going to get back to the level he was at the start of last season, that blistering period that you're talking about. But there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees of that.
No, but I don't think... I mentioned this in context in this show before, in context of guys like Rascan and Agaman at Rangers. I don't think he's maximised his value yet. I think £50 million, I think it'd be hard to get that just now, but I think they could get more down the line. I think I think you're right. I think the key is to get him to be more consistent and get him over the course of the whole season. I think you've got to cut him some slack. I don't think he's fall off in the second half of the season was that bad. I think because he set such a high bar in the first half of the season, I think he was still good at times in the second half of the season. Listen, he had a phenomenal performance in Bayern Munich away from home. He was very good in Champions League games in general,
which is why German teams will be.
So we know he's a player. I think he suffered from a wee bit similar to like Arne Engels, that it might be the first time he's had that kind of 50 game plus season at that level, and I think maybe that took its toll on him a wee bit in terms of fitness wise. But I think another year under his belt, I think he'd be a solid performer. I don't think Celtic should be looking to sell him just now. It depends on the player. If he's looking to get itchy feet and wanting to move on, then you're kind of forcing your hand. But if I was Celtic, I'd be trying to get him back fit, get him back fit and firing, get another season under the belt, and then look at it, because I think potentially he could be worth more. Yeah,
but you're banking on him getting back to that. I mean, you've got to. You're assuming then he'll definitely get back to that.
No, but he's proved himself in the Champions League already, so they know that the player's there.
Yeah,
he had a terrific season.
There was a small spell, looking at his whole period.
Yeah, I take the point, but I think it's there's more to come from him. I think it's Celtic.
I mean, we know Celtic's model, Michael. It is likely, well, they will sell someone. They always do, and normally it'll be a key man, whether it's Kuhn or someone else. They'll sell someone. But of the sort of players, when you look at them, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Rio Hatate, the captain, Callum McGregor, they're the kind of key men. I mean, there's even talk about Engels, some fans saying, they would be averse to losing him. But of the sort of so-called key men, who do you think they can't afford to sell?
See, I would say Dyson Maeda, because I think what kind of money would they get for him, and what would they be losing in that team if they sold him? So, say for example, like we mentioned £50 million for Kuhn. Say £50 million bid Kuhn from Maeda. Again, good money for a guy that's bought for buttons, really, and a good servant. But to replace Dyson Maeda, for a start, he's three players rolled into one. And he can play in different positions and effective in all of them. I just think that would be a major loss to the team and the squad and the way Celtic play. Again, it depends on what the player's thinking about his career path. Does he fancy a change? He seems quite settled.
He seems settled, yeah.
Seems quite settled. It depends. There's talk of a new contract. I think if you're Celtic, you'd be sticking a nice number under his nose, make it worth his while to stay longer. and give you a bit of insurance policy in terms of teams coming in. It all depends on the bids, because I will be interested in them because they're an effective player. Where they come from, I don't know. I don't know where that money is going to be coming from. I don't see him going to England, so it would need to be a bit abroad. But you'd need to be talking 20 plus, I think, to sell him. I think anything less than that, I think it would be silly, because it would cost you 15 million to replace him, because you need to buy £3-5 million players at least.
I think you're right, Maida.
It's not very often that people say that.
Of course, he would be a loss, and you're right. I think he does appear settled. Rio Hatate, not so much. I think he, would be a huge loss. I think you just have to look at the Scottish Cup final. Obviously, that was a blow. Getting injured against Aberdeen in that.
Yeah, I just wonder with the likes of Benjamin Negrin coming in, who can play wide but can also play kind of number 10. I just wonder if there's maybe going to be a slight change in the way Celtic play, and is that a kind of precursor to Hatate maybe moving on? I don't know.
Well, we hear that he's maybe.
Well, last summer he nearly went away. Last summer there was a lot of talk last summer about interest. He's obviously injured just now. That might slow things down till the end of the window, but that's one to keep an eye on.
He was very much an Ange Postecoglou man who became a Brendan Rodgers player, didn't he? I mean, he played so much last season. He started to just fit into.
I think he does frustrate Brendan Rodgers at times though, because he does look for that Hollywood ball all the time rather than the percentage pass, and I think that does can cause problems, especially against teams that are strong in the break, like in Europe. Not that, but we know what he can bring to teams. He's a top player. I think one of those guys, Kuhn, Maida, Hatate, one of them I think is going to go this summer. I think that's they've got the reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on. Mentioned there just now, Benjamin Nygren, Swedish kind of young player. Looks as though he's coming in. Does he fit the bill for Celtic?
I think he just screams a Celtic signing when you look at him. Just everything, the profile is just
Swedish for a start. I mean, Celtic's got a tremendous track record with Swedish players.
I mean, anybody can look good on a YouTube clip.
Even us.
Well, even us. And the one actually I think back to, I think Raphael Scheidt at the time.
Yeah, when he said of us.
One of the biggest Celtic flops ever. But I mean, he'd won Brazil cap,
didn't he?
And then you can put all that together and they look good. But anyway, I know you don't want to get too carried away over just watching clips, but he just looks like a perfect Celtic player. We talked about Kuhn earlier. If you do sell him for 15 million and you bring this guy in for what, 2.5, whatever it is,
less than that,
2 million,
under £2 million,
under £2 million. International, great age, 23-year-old, can play anywhere along the front three. Huge goal threat. I just think he would fit perfectly into a Brendan Rodgers Celtic side.
He does look as though he fits the profile, doesn't he? I think he looks like a kid who obviously burst onto the scene at 16, 17. He had half of Europe chasing him at one point at that age. A first team player in his homeland at that age. He went to Belgium, didn't quite cut it, and had to rebuild again. But he looks as though he's clicked into gear in Denmark. He's been capped by Sweden. I don't think this is a vintage Sweden squad.
No.
To be honest with you, you've got to have that caveat as well. But I mean, it's a low risk signing. It's back to one of these signings that Celtic sometimes make that doesn't cost much and might turn to be very profitable. It looks like a kid on the rise. If it doesn't work out, then no harm, no foul, really, because it's not like a blockbuster £15 million signing. It's less than £2 million.
Yeah.
It's a kind of signing that, like you say, it's a very Celtic-y kind of signing.
Yeah.
They tend to throw the net wide and far and pick up these guys. This is from a production line that they're well known of going to. Like I say, the Swedish history at Celtic with players have done not so bad through the years.
Yeah.
Obviously you get Larsson, Mjällby, Starfelt, Mastorovic, these kind of guys.
Yeah.
Freddie Ljungberg wasn't so hot right enough, but that was a different kind of signing. But yeah, I think it does seem to fit the bill.
Yeah. So we know, as you say, Michael, the fixtures announced this morning. So Rangers start away to Motherwell. That'll be Russell Martin's first domestic game. But before that, huge game, Champions League qualifier against Panathinaikos. They could have played Panathinaikos, Bergen or Servette. On paper, it looks the toughest. Panathinaikos looks to be the toughest draw they could have got. What do you think? Do you think it's going to come too soon? Bear in mind it will get, it'll get tougher as the rounds go on. They need to negotiate 3. What do you think? Too soon?
It probably is too soon in terms of rebuilding the squad. I mean, they've only got 4 weeks or so to the tie. As yet, not much activity transfer wise. That will need to get ramped up very soon. obviously there's issues in terms of areas of the team that really need addressing quickly. Centre half, one of them. I suspect it's coming too soon. It reminds me a wee bit of the Celtic when Ange Postecoglou came into Celtic after the kind of failed 10-in-a-row season.
Michelin.
Getting into the Michelin game with no real experienced centre halves. Like it was Dane Murray and Stephen Welsh at centre half, two young kids. They battled through, but they didn't get through the tie. I would say though, I don't think people should be too fearful of Panathinaikos because of the kind of name and the kind of pedigree they've got. I don't think it's a vintage Panathinaikos team.
No, it's not.
They had a horrendous start to last season, picked up a wee bit, but they finished about 17 points behind Olympiacos, much like Rangers did in Scotland, I guess. So I don't think a lot can happen in their transfer market as well. I wouldn't be too fearful of them. I mean, you look at the other teams that could have got equally. I mean,
well, Brandbergen will be 16 games into the season by the time of the tie.
Exactly.
So that would Servette would probably have been the easiest.
That would have been one, maybe. Yeah. I just think it's not. None of the draws are going to be ideal. Really, you could pick holes in them. I do suspect it might be too early in the kind of the rebuild curve.
It's always the cliches. It'll be hot in Athens. It's always going to be. It's always the heat. Like players in the Rangers team have never played in the heat before.
Exactly. It's like we had the guy on from one of the journalists from Greece on the Hotline Live during the week. He goes, "Oh, it's 35 degrees over here. It's hell on the earth." And I'm thinking that sounds rather pleasant. Actually, as somebody who's going to Greece on their summer holidays, I think that sounds quite good. But we know the conditions are going to be tough. But listen, and by the way, players in that league are used to it. Still don't like playing in conditions either. So it's a bit of a. But I think it's an opportunity, but it's a difficult one, and I suspect it's going to be too soon.
And it is a new manager, but this group of Rangers players have performed well in Europe, in the main.
In the Europa League, and should that be the target this year? I think getting to Europa League would be the target. And that's no given either. I mean, the way it works out in these qualifiers. So I think that might be the route that they need to go down.
I mean, you spoke about Russell Martin not having, he needs to get players in the building. That's right. I mean, central defence is an area where, Leon Balogun's away, so they're down to the bare bones. And then Record Sport had the story earlier this week that John Souttar faced a race against time to be fit, having gone under the knife after those two meaningless Scotland friendlies, we have to say, against Finland and Liechtenstein. A lot of Rangers fans not too happy about that. Do you think in doing that he has put his Rangers career in jeopardy at all?
I don't think he's put his Rangers career in jeopardy. I think listen, the reality is John Souttar is a very good football player, a good defender. I mean, I think he's a nice passer of the ball, really solid. But he has had these issues through the years with injuries, and I think he's maybe played 60-odd games in 3 seasons, and that's unfortunately it means he's come back. He's done amazingly battle back from three career-threatening injuries. So that's the reality. So the reality was Rangers needed 2 centre halves. When you think Robin Propper's probably going to be going as well, So I think they needed 2 centre halves for the season anyway. This slightly strange situation means they're going to have to expedite that and bring them in both in probably quicker than they thought, rather than having one in the door. Who's to blame for this? I mean, this situation. I find it a bit strange that the timing of the surgery and narrowing the window of recovery with that tie in mind. It's very strange how it's worked out.
I do have to say, Michael, that Russell Martin has spoken about it, and he did say, it was very much. Well, one, he says he will be fit for Panathinaikos. He believes he'll be fit.
Right, good.
And that it was very much that John Souttar, I mean, he did say that John Souttar was desperate to play for Scotland, wants to play for his country. He's saying he likes all that. I'm not sure Rangers fans would agree that playing in those games were important. But remember, it is a World Cup year, Michael, so you can kind of understand that. But the other thing about it is Scotland have huge games. Scotland's most important games are the World Cup qualifiers coming up in September. I mean, is it not better that John Souttar is in peak physical condition for those games? Rather, I mean, why would Steve Clark have even wanted?
Listen, I think all parties in this will look back at it and think, you know what, that was a bit silly. I mean, John himself should have said, no, I'm going to get, after the Bilbao game, I'm not feeling right, I need to get checked out, I need surgery, can I get in Sharpies? I want to back for this pre-season. Clubs should have said, you're definitely getting Sharpies for that. I think Steve Clark should have had a chat with him and said, listen, where are you? I know what you can do. You've been part of the Scotland squads for years. I know what you do. I don't need you to play against Iceland and Liechtenstein. I mean, I think all 3 parties should have been a bit better communication and a bit more sensible and say, right, what, put the feet up, get your wee clean up operation, come back in start of July, fit and firing, and we'll have you fit for September for Scotland and for the qualifiers for Rangers. I think all parties have been a wee bit silly and they might all regret it.
Could you have had the operation after the Bilbao game and even played in those friendlies? No?
Well, that's what I mean. We don't know when.
That was April.
We don't know when that was discovered. That you need that.
Oh, right, okay.
We don't know when it realised I need a wee operation.
Yeah, I see. Okay, that's a good
the timing
point.
is different, but
good point.
I think you got to the end of the season. Once they discovered that, they said, listen, right, okay. I mean, listen, fair play to John Stewart wanting to play with Scotland, but those games were beyond meaningless. And the manager knows what he's capable of.
Well, Michael, could James Tavanir play centre half? That will take us on to our next question, because Max Aaron's linked with a move to Rangers this week, one of the many targets Rangers have been linked with. So if he takes James Tavanir's place, will he take his place? Does it spell the end for him?
Well, listen, if Rangers are going to a European qualifier with James Tavanir at centre half, then somebody's messed up somewhere in terms of recruitment. That would be an alarm bell right away. As much as James Tavanir can do a job in there, that would be a failure of the recruitment department.
But would Aaron's arriving? Is that the end for him then? Well, he's only got a year left, hasn't he?
He's got a year left. I mean, I think he will be around for the year. You've got to think that's an area that, I mean, Max Aaron, I mean, there's a lot that has to happen with that transfer. Obviously, he's had a bit of a kind of difficult kind of year or so. He obviously went on loan to Valencia and he played 5 or 6 games out there. But he'd be on a big contract as well in terms of finances. And do they want to sell him, which would probably command still got a big fee, given his reputation from previous when he was worth fortunes. So there's a lot can happen there. But you've got to think that if that's an area of the pitch that they're looking at, it does suggest to me that Tavanir could be maybe used more sparingly this season. You've got to think, he's still the club captain.
But it's happened with club captains before. I remember Steven Gerrard at the end
Often,
with Liverpool, Brendan Rodgers phasing him out. I mean, that's not unusual.
Yeah, you can be a club captain. I mean, club captains tend to be, especially guys that have been there for a long time, they might be that they don't play every week. I just think it's an area they need to look at. They need to look at anyway, isn't it? I mean, he's been a good set. He gets a hard time, Tavanir. I mean, I get why, because there's been a lot of disappointments during his time. There's been some big high points as well. You got to win the league, get into European final, all these things. I mean, the goal return and assist return is ridiculous. The last season, I don't think it was his best last season. He dropped a few times, didn't he, for a while? But you know what you're going to get from him. I just think that's an area that's going to look at.
He's never really had a challenge. I mean, you think back, Nathan Patterson when he was emerging. But even then, it was all too brief. This might be the rocket that he needs. Maybe that's what he's needed.
Listen, but he's not getting any younger, is he?
No.
I mean, what is he, 32, 33?
I was meaning more just for one final push, like seeing somebody coming in and everybody's written him off. Finally someone comes in who can challenge him.
I do think, though, Rangers need to have some sort of clean slate at some point, and I think it does need a refreshing of the squad. And it might be that time is starting to come to an end for the captain. And it's just the nature of the game, isn't it?
Well, part of that clean slate, Lyall Cameron was unveiled at Ibrox this season. Obviously signed up this week. Signed a pre-contract from Dundee last season, so we knew he was a new face coming. Do you think he can become a regular?
It depends how you define it. I mean, I don't know if a regular, a week in, week out starter is going to be on the agenda for him. I would doubt it. But I mean, I think he could take inspiration from his old clubmate across the city, Luke McCown.
I was going to say that. That's
a guy who's a bit of a surprise signing in the last day of the window, and has probably played a lot more than maybe some would have expected. And by the way, looked apart. I think Lyall Cameron is a younger player, and he's perhaps got potential in him to improve, even more so. So he's a long term. I don't like the word project, but he's going to be a long term kind of view on him. He's a really neat and tidy player, isn't he? He's a cracking little player. You just hope that the people are patient with him and give him time to kind of find his feet. The concern with Rangers is that there's a lot of work being done in that squad. They're into the qualifiers. Things can get pretty bumpy quite quickly, and it's going to be impatience. I mean, fans are seeing the takeover and thinking they want this, they want it now. It's not going to be straight away. There's going to be some bumps early on.
Like Connor Barron experienced last season, 12 months ago.
Connor Barron, I think people maybe went overboard at the start, saying he's a superstar. Then he struggles a wee bit, and he's like, get him out the door, he's rubbish. the peacocks and feather dusters in Scotland. I think again another young player who is a good football player that needs a bit of time in the situation can not overwhelmed him, but you get dragged into that vortex of misery during the middle of the season. The manager getting his books and all that stuff. And that's we don't want to see the same with Lyall Cameron. I think get through that early period, get him in and out the team, and I think there's a player there. And do you not think that these are the kind of players that Rangers and perhaps Celtic should be getting, the best young talents in Scotland?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen it kind of, down through the years? God, you look at Celtic, going back and getting Scott Brown from Hibs at the time, look at the player he became.
Yeah, but there's got to be a kind of like a Scottish core in these teams. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but the guys that know what it's all about, because plenty of foreign guys know what it's all about eventually. But you want to see...
Lennon Miller's the one. I know you spoke about him last week.
Yeah, he's the next one off the production line, isn't he? But we'll see how Cameron does at Rangers. I think he might do all right. I think he might be pretty decent. Listen, we'll go further afield. I don't know if you've watched any of this Club World Cup. I've watched a few. I mean, quite liked a few of the games, but I watched the Bayern Munich Auckland side. I mean, the poor goalkeeper at Auckland's a forklift driver. He's could done that to get lifted the back of the net. Is this got a future? This competition, empty seats.
It might be unpopular opinion, Michael, but I think. You're right. It started. I picked up a coupon in the bookies, and I was looking down, and it was Bayern Munich were like 1 to 1,000, it was just ridiculous.
You're still going to the actual bookies to get a coupon?
Oh yeah. I need to go and pick one off my dad. He likes to fill it out.
There were 1,000 to 1,
but they were 1 to 1,000. 1 to 1,000, and I thought I've never seen odds like that. And so I thought I need to watch this game just out of curiosity, see if it's going to be as one-sided, and it was as you say earlier. But I think as the week has gone on, I think do you know what's actually shown is, there are quality teams outside of the big five in Europe. I mean, we just think we live in this bubble, this Champions League bubble, where we think nothing exists outside of UEFA and, as I say, the big five. But I think, some of the performances from the teams from the other continents have been quite surprising.
Did you see the Real Madrid Al Hilal?
Well, exactly.
I was the one really impressed with them.
Exactly.
Listen, sure they should. They spent a few quid.
No, I know.
But you think, you're watching that team, you think that team would do some damage to some of the other teams.
And also the fans. I know you're talking about empty seats, but if you see the games involving sort of the South Americans, the Brazil and the Argentinian teams, I think there is potential there. It obviously there has to be changes of the timing. Players are knackered, so when should we play it? Should the domestic season finish earlier? Should the new season start later? That would then maybe mean dropping games. I see suggestions of maybe like League Cup fixtures, been binned in a lot of these countries to make room because the fixture calendar's congested. But I think if we get the right teams in the right format, I think we could be onto something.
Do you think if this competition had been held in the UK or Germany or Spain or Italy, would it be received differently? Would it be perceived differently?
Probably. I think the fact is in America probably isn't, I mean, can you imagine a tournament like that or in Brazil? Imagine
that's what I'm thinking.
In Brazil?
That might be different. I mean, again, it has surprised me I just think it's hard to get beyond the fact that it looks a bit grubby. I mean, the thing that the Infantino kind of getting to bed with the Saudi investment fund.
I get all that.
You've got Inter Miami shoehorned into competition for no reason because they've got Messi. You've got them trying to woo Ronaldo out.
But look, he's gone.
I know, but that's not.
But you're right. It's
the meritocracy of sport.
Of course, you're right.
So
you're right.
I mean, the qualification process to get these teams was all a bit bizarre. It just seems that I think there is a room for a World Club Cup. But it might be there's a qualifying campaign for some of the smaller nations, and then you can bring in the big teams at the quarterfinals because you know how it's going to be. You know the quarterfinals now. I just think it's a wee bit of a kind of PR money grab thing in America. So the current format, I don't see any future in it. No. It's a competition. By the way, it's not the first year of the FIFA World Cup.
No.
Club Cup. It's been going since
I know.
The 1960s in various Intercontinental Cup. They stopped it after the South American teams were a bit naughty, weren't they? Kicking lumps at the teams and all that stuff. But I think maybe it's one to be tweaked.
But let's stay in America, Michael. Favourite of yours, Bob McIntyre. So close. Did you stay up to watch the US Open? So close.
Fabulous.
But he's got a major in him, hasn't he?
Well, this is the thing, right? there was a wee line in one of the American, reading some of the American kind of reports about the final day drama. It was brilliant. I mean, it was a tournament for 3 days. It was dull as anything, and then the last kind of couple of hours it really sparked into life, and the conditions were horrendous, and Bob was just hanging on tough and just grinding it out. Could have seen more on TV of him right enough. The broadcasters didn't show much of him, but he did brilliantly. And one of the lines that I saw, it just jumped on the page for me. They said Bob McIntyre ended up obviously in the lead, post the pub house lead, and sat back and waited to see how J.J. Spawn finished off in stunning style. But they said in the contention to win his first major, and I thought, do you know what? That's the right phrase, because he's not in contention to win a major, or it could be his first one.
Yeah,
this guy is, I think, is the real deal. He's got the game, he's got the mentality. I think he's going to be a good bet to win. Well, I just think I like that phrase. It's and for his first one, not just to win a one.
Yeah.
It's almost like now, like this guy is now getting towards a point where he's going to be seen as one of the better guys without one. I think he's going to be a chance. I just think he's got the mentality that he'll never have harder conditions than Oakmont in that the whole week, but especially the last day, blowing a gale, bucket in the rain, the close flooding, folk dropping like flies all over the place. We're rough up to your waist. It's like my back garden. I mean, just brutal, and he hung tough. Had the shots at the right time. He knew as well where he was. Had a mentality. He's a winner. He's won on both sides of the Atlantic. I just think he's worth. I tell you what, he's worth my pound for Royal Portrush to the Open. Yeah. I'm sticking my pound in the pot for Bob. Aye.
What kind of odds do you think you'll get from now?
I still think you might find he's doing about 40-1 or something like 25s maybe. I think, I don't know. I need to have a wee look, but I think he's definitely worth a bet. Certainly each way. He's got the Scottish Open before then. He's obviously defending champion, which is, I mean, by winning that, the pressure on him to win that and the style he won it in, a wee bit like Spawn did at the US Open, to win his home Open in that kind of fashion was spectacular. I think he's exciting. I think he's a lock for the Ryder Cup. And I think a good shout to win a major in the very near future. Exciting for Scottish golf, that's for sure.
So, Michael, you said you're going to Greece on holiday, and I know it's going to be absolutely scorching over there, but it's going to be scorching here this weekend. Now, we've had Royal Ascot all week. So, I mean, what I want to ask you as well, before we get to the real question, right, should Royal Ascot relax their strict dress code, because we've got this record-breaking temperature. But before we get to that, I want to know, how would you look in a gaudy fascinator or one of these hats? I want to know.
It might cover up a few of the kind of baldy patches in the pitch. I think be handy. It's like a 4G surface up here.
But it's a set. Let me just read a quote.
So is it a fascinator?
A fascinator.
Is that a hat? Or I think
hat.
I don't know.
But let me quote from the website. Okay, right. A celebration of elegance and sartorial excellence, right? Well, so, I mean, the dress code
box ticked, yep.
Yeah, the dress code anyway. Now, it's good because it does say no socks, which is good, because how many times you go to the race and you see all these kind of Essex boys look, with a...
So they've got to wear socks or not?
Oh, no, they've got to wear socks. Right, that's what I was going to say. That's one of the things. You've got to wear socks.
Right.
How many times you see these Essex boys with the shoes and no socks? You don't do that, do you?
No.
Unless you're in Greece.
No, unless it's wearing my flip-flops.
Your flip-flops on.
Or my sandals and my socks on.
But no, I mean, in the Royal enclosure, it's waistcoat and tie, black or grey top hat, but even the so-called ordinary punters have got to wear a jacket and tie at all times. Right. So they're considering relaxing that. Or sorry, there's calls for that to be relaxed, because in all seriousness, I mean, the heat is going to be, it's off the scale on Saturday for Royal Ascot. Yeah. Do you think they should be relaxing that? I mean, there must be a...
Listen, I think in this day and age, I mean, to force these poor guys to be wearing the top hat, tails and waistcoats and all that stuff, this is inhumane. And by the way, in a spirit of equality, how come the ladies can take their jackets off? So they're all wearing floaty dresses and all that stuff, aren't they?
Yeah. Although I think that there's a few rules here that they can't have strapless.
Yeah, but they can wear a dress, so they're getting a nice bit of draft as well. So I think the answer to, if they don't change the rules, I'd be wearing a floaty dress. I'd be sitting on the frog.
And a fascinator.
Yeah. So the key to cooling down is, in this modern day and age, that's the way to do it, surely.
It's someplace. I have to actually tell you.
You like this stuff, don't you? Like getting dressed up, Gav?
Sorry, before the whistle blows, actually, I've been to Royal Ascot once, but you know what? The funny thing is, the time I went, went, it was the only time it's not been at Ascot, because the course was getting redeveloped and they moved it up north to York.
Right, Royal Ascot in York.
It was great because obviously I had nothing to compare it to, but you'd seen Royal Ascot in the telly and obviously you see all the outfits and all that. And it just looked to me that obviously it's so hard, you can't replicate it, but it just looked like, all these northerners going and trying to be like the way it is at Ascot. So they've got all the good dresses, they were all done up, getting the best of the dresses, and then I just saw one woman scooping up chips and curry sauce with this great dress, and I thought that to me was the image of Royal Ascot at York.
Yeah, it sums it up.
For 1 year only,
but you like to get your gear on for the racing, don't you?
No, I'm not sure. The thing is, I don't think I can even fit into it.
I think I've worn a tie since COVID hit.
Well, I think that's the problem. That's always when you realise when you can't get your top button undone. So I think I would be struggling in that heat, full stop. Never mind with a top hat and tails on.
Mind you, it's additions to these things that make it good fun. I mean, getting dressed up for the day of the race is part of the fun, isn't it?
It is, but maybe not to that extreme.
Yeah, it's apparently there was reports of guys fainting and all that stuff.
I know.
Even the folk working there have got to wear a shirt and tie as well.
So I know, because I saw somebody saying if they relax the dress code, all that means is the paramedics can take their jackets off when they're helping all these people that are fainting.
I heard one, like a cameraman was filming when he's keeled over.
Is that right?
Which would have been slightly kind of worrying. But listen, on that note, we'll go and stick on our top hat and tails, and then go and lose our shirts.
Get the curry sauce and chips,
or
the salmon sandwiches. What do you want?
The prawn sandwiches or the chips and curry. I think I'm going to chips and curry sauce, man, myself. But anyway, listen, thanks for watching and listening as usual. This week's episode of Game On, you can catch us as always on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all your usual outlets. If you want to leave your comments, it's always welcome, good and bad. But listen, enjoy the sunshine, have a great weekend, and we'll be back either next week or in the near future, depending on who's all on holiday and who's not on holiday, and who's wearing their tails. Thanks again.
Thanks, Michael.